But nightfall casts the shadows, peering into windows where families breathe new life. It's a lovely afternoon, and I'm driving with cruise control. My darling, she don't miss her beat when she's dancing. She's got so much soul, so much soul, so much soul. She wasn't feeling very hungry, just a little dizzy with the altitude so high. But not a fear of flying, just the thought of dying, but never knowing why. It's a lovely afternoon, and I'm driving with cruise control. My darling, she don't miss her beat when she's dancing. She's got so much soul, so much soul, so much soul. It's a brilliant afternoon, and I'm driving with the windows down, and my darling, she don't miss her beat when she's dancing. She's got so much soul, so much soul, so much soul. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Pete Kilpatrick. I live here in Brunswick. That's where I'm broadcasting from. And I guess I will just let you know a little bit about myself. I've been a professional musician for almost 20 years now, and played all over the country, and with artists like Dave Matthews Band. I've had a couple of songs on The Office and Parks and Recreation, and a couple sitcoms along the way. But when Teresa reached out to me, this was just such a wonderful cause, and something I really stand firmly behind. I have a 9-year-old son who's in 3rd grade and a 6-year-old daughter who's in kindergarten. And, it's just really important to me that the public health of our state, and children in the entire state, it's just something that affects all of us as a country, as a state. And, their children are so impressionable, and I see it every day, even more so with COVID, being with my children more than I ever thought I would be. And just seeing them kind of drawn to things that are bright and colorful, and, things that catch their eye. And I think that is one of the big reasons that we need to get the flavored tobacco out of Maine. So yeah. So I'm going to play one more song for you guys, and thank you so much for having me. Hope everybody has a wonderful night. There's a great panel of speakers. So I'm going to play a song called Coming Home. And this is a song I wrote about traveling home to Maine after a trip I took to California. I kind of wrote it along the way. So thank you again for having me. And this is Coming Home. Heading home from the West Coast, and the sun is at our backs. I'm searching for your number in my bag. So much I want to tell you, so much that you should know. Like the color of the sky in Colorado, and the feeling of the ground beneath my shoes. The feeling of the ground beneath my shoes. The snow is falling lightly on the road. Every mile that goes by brings us closer to home. Coming down from the mountains, I can see the sky is blue. It reminds me that I'm coming home to you. Rolling down the highway, the sun is sinking low. I know that I'll be driving through the night. So much I want to tell you, so much that you should know. Like your favorite song is playing on the radio, and the Nashville skyline's painting my rear view. The Nashville skyline's painting my rear view. The rain is falling lightly on the road. Every mile that goes by brings us closer to home. Driving on the turnpike, Boston's coming into view. It reminds me that I'm coming home to you. Well, I'm coming home to you. 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 Falling lightly on the road. Every mile that goes by brings us closer to home. Driving on the turnpike, Boston's coming into view. It reminds me that I'm coming home to you. All right. Thank you again for having me. And my one shameless plug is I have a website. It's PeteKilpatrickBand.com if anybody would like to check out some more of my music. So thank you.
Thank you, Pete. That was awesome. So wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for being with us. I'm Representative Jan Dodge from Belfast, and it's an honor to join you and encourage actions to support student health. We can help protect kids from addiction by taking steps to eliminate flavored tobacco products and by funding Maine's tobacco prevention and treatment programs. Parents, teachers, and education leaders are concerned that tobacco use is on the rise. Flavored products like peppermint mocha and cotton candy are not for adults and illustrate how this industry targets and hooks our kids. So let's begin. I'd like to introduce Representative Rebecca Millett of Cape Elizabeth, my colleague on the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee in the 130th Legislature. Rebecca?
Thank you so much, Representative Dodge. She's awesome on education, by the way. We make a pretty great team, I would think. So I am Representative Rebecca Millett. I actually just wrapped up 8 years as state senator and decided there's just too much work to be done. So I am happily back and continuing my work on the Education Committee. And I'm a co-founder of the Children's Caucus. So about 2 years ago, South Portland Middle School students went out of their way to let me know that there was a problem, a big problem with widespread vaping at their school and in their homes. When teenagers reach out to adults asking us for help, well, then you know it's serious. And I knew it was serious. As a result of researching the issue to prepare my bills, my horror grew over how toxic and addictive these nicotine delivery devices are. Between the chemicals and the flavors, the metals in the vaping device, and the high levels of nicotine delivered in a short period of time. It is no accident that with youth smoking of traditional cigarettes in serious decline and a future generation less hooked on nicotine, Big Tobacco refocused on electronic cigarettes and targeted our children with flavors and slick social media advertising. This is about big money and fueling corporate profits at the expense of our children's health and our public health. And tobacco's slick lobbyists hovered around the legislature's Health and Human Services Committee as we fought to prohibit flavors in 2019 and 2020. They gymmed up Maine small convenience stores and vape shops, predicting their businesses' demise. So we needed to act to protect them rather than our families from lifelong addiction. This year, there's no hallway for the lobbyists to lurk in. Tiny pandemic silver lining. But they will be back at it, getting folks to show up again in opposition. So everybody, parents, youth, counselors, local officials, doctors, educators, grandparents, neighbors, puppies, anybody, come out in droves, please. Let's finally drive home the point that we won't allow big tobacco to hook our kids. Please help my legislative colleagues understand the time has come to take action, meaningful action, to protect our children and their future health.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Representative Millett and Representative Dodge. And we are so lucky to have both of you on our side, not just on this issue, but on so many issues. And we are so very grateful that you are standing up with us against big tobacco. My name is Betsy Sweet, and I have been an advocate in those hallways for almost 40 years now, working on public health, on women's rights, on civil rights. And I will embarrassingly admit that I started my advocacy career as the president of my student council in 1972, and our big initiative was to allow smoking on campus. And it was, I'm horrified at the moment, but as Angela Mayo says, when we know better, we do better. So luckily, that's not my issue anymore. So my issue is actually here and now. So I'm very excited to have you all here. And we really just want to do a rallying cry to understand, as a mother of 3 daughters myself, I have been very interested in this, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But before we get started with our incredible panelists, I just want to share a couple of slides that are put together by Carol and the group that are amazing, just so we all have the same basis of information. And both Jan and Rebecca talked about, the flavoring of tobacco and vaping especially. I remember the first time I saw a vape pen, and a friend of mine's son had it, and it was strawberry. And I said, "What is in that thing?" And I said, "Is that tobacco?" And he said, "No, it's not tobacco. It's just a flavor. It's just a flavored liquid. There's no nicotine or anything in it. It's just flavored." And his mom was like, "Yeah, it's nothing. It's fine." And so off he went with all his different flavors when we all were sort of believed that there was nothing harmful in there. And except we did say, "Okay, it can't be good for you. You're putting something in your lungs. That's not good." We didn't know that, and he didn't know or didn't believe that it was nicotine and it was meant totally to hook him. So this is, our future is our kids, and their good health is the #1 thing that we need for our economy, for a prosperous Maine, and for them to keep their life, on a good track. And that's why we need to do now. We need to take this action now to prevent another generation from becoming addicted to tobacco products. Tobacco use among Maine youth is on the rise. 30% of high school students use some form of tobacco, and the vast majority of it is vaping, or it's chewing tobacco, e-cigarettes, cigars. That's a 25% increase since 2015. And 29% of high school students use e-cigarettes, and that's doubled in the last 2 years and continues to grow exponentially. Every year in Maine, smoking results in $811 million in direct healthcare costs. $811 million, right? 2,400 people die from smoking-related illness. And this one is the one that kills me. Tobacco industry spends $45 million in Maine on product marketing. And they are not marketing to you and me. They are marketing to these kids. The time to act is now. And the other thing is that with this pandemic and COVID-19, it has never been more important to keep our lungs healthy. We know that, the doctors tell us that, and the kids aren't hearing it. Together, we can do this. We can make the next generation grow up tobacco-free. Here are just a few of our incredible partners who are working with us to make sure that we actually accomplish this. They use more than 15,000 flavors. 15,000. And as Jan said, mocha mint and strawberry passion. And, those are not aren't to appeal to you and I. Those are to appeal to children, to young people. And as Pete said, those are the things that his kids are attracted to. Winter menthol, cherry crush. Look at those things. Those are not meant for you and I. Those are meant for young people and very young people. And 4 out of 5 kids who use tobacco start with a flavored product because it's cool, it tastes good. And again, many of them don't think that there's nicotine in it. So we have a solution. LD 1550 is the act to end the sale of flavored tobacco products. This prohibits the sale and distribution of flavored tobacco products, including flavored cigars and electronic smoking devices. Michelle Meyer is the sponsor of the bill, and it's also included in Rachel Talbot Ross's health equity bill, which has not yet been printed. This doesn't remove unflavored tobacco from the market, nor does it criminalize the purchase of or possession of tobacco products. But this will eliminate the possibility that we sell these in our state. The other key points are this has positive health and economic impacts, reduced youth and young adult initiation. And they say that if you don't start when you're young, it's very unlikely that you will start as an adult. Reduced rates of nicotine addiction and other substances, lives saved, illness and productivity losses prevented, and the costs that we talked about earlier. E-cigarettes are not an FDA-approved cessation device, which is a lot of them trying to convince us that's what they're doing. And we are not going to wait for the FDA. States have to act. We know that they act slowly and that they take a long time on things, and so we cannot wait for them. Maine needs to act. And it's about justice and equity and giving Maine kids a fair shot. We know that they target the most marginalized populations first, and the ones that are feeling badly about other things, and that's where they go. And we have to confront health disparities and help the next generation grow up tobacco free. Now is the time to end the sale of all flavored tobacco products in Maine. So there's lots that you can do, and we'll talk more about this throughout the night, throughout the evening, but there's a partner sign-on letter. Most importantly, as Rebecca said, calls to your legislators that are coming from you as a person in Maine who cares, as a parent, as whatever role you play as an educator. You can post social media stuff. Teresa does an incredible job with social media. Share her stuff, share it out there. That's an exponential way to do it. And then there is a hearing on LD 1550 on May 7th at 9 a.m. It has never been easier, another silver lining of the pandemic, to sign up and testify in Augusta. You don't need to drive there. You don't need to sit in a hot room and wait. You can fold your laundry or do other things while you're waiting to testify. So it's really important that we all show up. Awesome. So we all just have the same base of information. It's a problem. It's bad. And who better to tell us about that than a superintendent of schools? So Phil Paziano is the superintendent of Brunswick Schools. Phil, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in Brunswick, what you're seeing when we know Brunswick is not unique. Tell us what's going on what you see with kids in your schools.
Great. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Thank you all. Thank you to Teresa and Carol and others for giving me the opportunity to talk about this last fall and continue to talk about it and discuss this issue with other superintendents. So as Betsy said, I'm a new superintendent, not so new now, feels like it's been a while, but I came to Brunswick this past year. And much like the place where I came from, this issue of vaping and tobacco use in students is prevalent. It's beyond use. It's beyond anything you can comprehend. I was speaking to our high school nurse today about it to make sure that the experiences, the data and whatnot. And I just want to say again that health and wellness of students is a passion of mine. But to give you a brief overview, we've seen it firsthand at the high school. I see some other Brunswick folks here, and they can also weigh in. I see Gino's here, who's had a firsthand. Gino Ring has had firsthand experiences with this. But as a superintendent, I've got the responsibility for the health and safety and overall well-being of over approximately 2,500 students. And by now, we all know that students are dealing with higher levels of stress, anxiety, depression, and then layering on that COVID. And the fact is that vaping and using flavored tobacco products and tobacco products it impacts our students' health and wellness, and it impacts their ability to be ready and able to come to school. Our schools have become what I think is fair to say, ground zero for the infiltration of vaping products. We've seen it firsthand. The nurse, as I said today, reported that it's everywhere. Before the pandemic, it was just pervasive. They're easy to conceal. They're easily accessible, and they are quickly addicting, as we've already heard. We've seen students impacted by this, causing them their inability to participate in activities, including sports. We've also seen how it's directly targeted towards marginalized students, and that just, frankly, breaks my heart. So with students' academic and social lives already significantly altered by the pandemic, I'm hoping that we can all join forces and make this a priority. And I hope you'll be joining me and other superintendents to ban tobacco products, vaping products, flavored products, so that our students don't have the ability to get these products. So again, thank you for having me tonight, and I'm happy to answer questions as we move on throughout the panel. Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks so much. And it is just so disturbing. And one thing you said, I think that we, forget back in the old days, right? We had to have a cigarette. You had to have matches or a lighter and light it up. And it was very, it was hard to hide, right? But with these vaping pens and vaping cigarettes and e-cigarettes, it's very easy to just hold it in your hand. Or, I've heard people talk about kids doing it in the hallway or even doing it in classrooms. And so I think it's just, and the other thing I think you talked about was how much stress kids are under because of the pandemic. It's worse than ever. So I want to bring in now Dan Ross, who's a principal at the Woodland Junior High School and Junior and Senior High School in Baileyville up in Washington County. And Dan, excellent letter to the editor today in the Bangor Daily News. Thank you. It was awesome. So tell us what you're seeing up in the county, in Washington County. Wait, you're muted, Phil. Dan, you're muted. Sorry. There you go. No, you're still muted. Little microphone down the corner. Now you're muted. And now unmute. There you go. No, we still can't hear you. All right. Well, we're going to come back to you, and our ace Teresa is going to figure that out. But so because I really want to hear what you have to say, because I know your letter was awesome. So let's try one more time before I move on to Vicki. Can we hear you? Just say no. Okay. All right. We'll figure it out. But let's move now, Vicki. So Vicki Wiegman, sorry, I said it wrong, is a substance abuse prevention counselor in the Lewiston schools. And I know that you are seeing lots of things in Lewiston, and you've been at this for a long time. If you want to share with us a little bit about what you are seeing, that would be awesome.
Sure. Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yes, I am the substance use prevention coordinator and counselor for Lewiston schools, and I have been doing this for a very long time. I'm also a tobacco treatment specialist and a prevention specialist. So I always, because I obsess, don't be afraid. I prepared notes that I'm likely not even going to look at. So just thinking about this particular issue, I am very aware of how great our gains have been in the areas of combustible tobacco products, that we've seen such a giant decline. And then I almost feel like the industry kind of caught us when we weren't looking, and that kids had a real running start in using these items. I'll have students that will say, absolutely everybody is doing, and insert the behavior that we wish they weren't doing. And I always know it's not really everybody. Some days it really feels like this is everybody. I totally agree with the marketing, how the marketing strategies target challenging experiences with specific groups of students. However, I also feel like the whole, vaping, and particularly that's been, huge with flavored products, has crossed all lines. And, people who look at, oh, well, that's a good kid, I bet they're not doing that. There's so many young people who indeed are. And that I had done a series of talks for staff and for parents. And there was a teacher came up to me and she said, I think I gave one of those back to a kid because I thought it was their thumb drive, because it's so easy for young people to be covert. When I talk to students in classrooms, I bring that up. What is the advantage to the industry making products that you can use covertly? Really think that through. Something that I think is absolutely probably going to get mentioned other times is the sincere belief that these are somehow safer products. That the vapor is water, and that flavors that are fruit in nature, or, vegetable, cucumber, melon, or something like that, have such a, kind of health implication in them, and they're just really not. And then I think a lot about young people who share with me that they simply can't stop. A lot of us can remember what we did when COVID first hit, and one piece that one of my kids' partners had said, look up on your Amazon history and see what the first things were that you ordered. And for me, it was Christmas lights to put around my house because I needed a break. And then just anything that was going to allow me to be remote with students. And then the first act that I did was to make some videos for the Lewiston Area Public Health Committee to teens. This is a terrible time to do something that's harmful to your lungs. Here's what you might want to think about. Or, if you're having intense cravings for nicotine, here are the things you can do. And speaking of cravings, I feel like the piece that often gets, I'm not going to say minimized, but I don't think we think about it as often, is what a segue nicotine addiction dependence is to other substances. And when that circuitry in the brain starts to be, assaulted by chemicals, looking at impact on learning, on management of emotions, on ability to even sit in class for what used to be 80 minutes without having to go use something. And I've talked to kids on sports teams, like, yeah, almost everybody uses them. So it absolutely is a giant issue. And I think about what to do about it. I mean, I feel like we do lots of things, but there's always a new and bigger piece of it that feels threatening. So I, for one, would be thrilled to at least see us get rid of the flavors. And one piece, and then I'll stop, because I could talk about this forever. People are like, please don't. But the Juul pods with their flavorings, and as those were, restricted in terms of what flavors, well, enter the Puff Bar, which doesn't have to play by the same rules because it's a disposable. And before this, I just looked up how many flavors of Puff Bars are there, and it's ridiculous, really ridiculous. So, as always, and we know this, folks, we know this from back, my kids are all adults. They're in their mid to late 20s, early 30s. And I remember being pregnant with one of them and testifying on behalf of the Lung Association about doing something related to teen smoking. And I think, wow, 30 years later, and we're still having to fight this fight. So that's my little piece. And again, I could just go on and on.
Oh, well, thank you, Vicki. We really appreciate it. And one of the things you said is that the little Juul, I don't know if the other brands too, but the Juul thing that looks like a thumb drive. I discovered it I found it on the floor of my kid's room, my late teen room. And we have a healthy household, we eat organic food, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what's this? What's on the thumb drive? And they're like, oh, no, it's not much, whatever. And I was like, and then my older daughter said, that's not a thumb drive. I said, well, what is it? They said, that's a jewel. I said, what's a jewel? I had no idea. And that I know, and they said, oh, Mom, it's just flavored stuff. Don't worry about it. It's not a thing. And so it was really, I was, then of course I came to be horrified at what it actually is. So, and I think it is so easy. And, just think of that marketing, to be able to charge it by putting it into your computer or your phone or your device, right? It's so sinister. It's really sinister and so easy for those kids. It's awful. So, all right, let's see. Dan, can we hear you yet?
Can you hear me?
Yay! Yes, we can. Awesome.
There's
Awesome.
probably a joke in there. How many principals does it take to?
How long do you have to be remote before you can? Something like that. Well, thank you so much Dan for being with us, and tell us what's going on up in Washington County.
I largely I would echo what Phil had said earlier. Some specific examples. I mean, we do have kids that are vaping in the hallway. We have kids that are vaping in class. They're not vaping in class so that they could kind of turn around and get a selfie and ha ha ha, we fooled the teacher. They're vaping in class because they're addicted, and the teacher is caught wise to them asking to be let out every class period every day during the week. And so the teacher thinks, well, there's no way that they're using the bathroom that much. So they try to keep them in class, and then the kids are so addicted they can't go without. And so some of them will have a vape pen attached to an inner collar, and they'll wait till the teacher's back is to them and take a puff. And then if they can't breathe it out fast enough before the teacher turns around, they'll actually zero it, which is, I guess, what they call it, where it's just they'll swallow the whole thing down. And I hear kids talk about that. It's very cringeworthy. On other occasions, I've had kids where we found their vape pen. They get caught in class because we're broadcasting instruction out live from some classrooms, and it's hard to avoid. They still have to do it. So yeah, some kids, I've taken the vape pen and it's either turned into a meltdown because they're so addicted to it. Or it's just they'll leave school because they refuse to give it up, and they know that they can't get through the day without inhaling. And I've had probably the most poignant case, and I won't take too much time here, but unfortunately, every 6 or 7 months, I find a homeless child out in my dugout. It's the end of Route 9, and that's kind of the end of the road, pretty much. And one young man had run away from home. There was some trouble with police, but he had left an abusive situation and stolen a car and ended up in my dugout. And I worked with DHS to get him set up in a home locally. We enrolled him under McKinney-Vento, as we should have. Next day, I saw that he was back in my dugout, and I said, what happened? And he said, well, the host family won't let me keep my vape pens, and I can't get through without them. So this is a kid who gave up a warm place to stay in the middle of December, gave up warm meal because he was so addicted to the vape pen. And it's just, those are the real situations. And I admit we don't see many of those, but that, addiction at the teenage level, they start to look like adults well before they actually are adults physically and mentally. And that's what it looks like. You're kind of turning a normal childhood development into an addicted brain almost.
Yeah.
And it's very sad, and it's very hard to see. And that was kind of that particular example was really why this means as much as it does to me to really advocate for removing the flavored products off the shelves, because personally, professionally, I don't know how many of those situations I can bear to see. It's very hard.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty awful. And that idea, and in that brain development, our brains aren't fully developed till we're 25 or 26. And so once you create that pattern in the brain early, which is what the tobacco companies know, right? That's what they know that. And so that's why they market so hard and make Banana Balooza flavors, and why they market so hard to get
Well,
our kids early on.
If you look at anything else in their lives, nothing else in their lives that's flavored with cookie dough is necessarily bad for them.
You're right.
So it's disarming from the get-go.
Right.
And it's just, there's really no parallel for them. And the fact that it's so heavily flavored, they don't, I mean, teenagers, as we all know, they don't have much in the way of long range planning skills. It's
Yeah.
one thing to say, well, I had 3 cigarettes today. It's another thing. How many times do you go to the vape pen? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they can't, there's no regulation
They don't even.
on an individual basis.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So no even little bits of control.
It-
Wow.
It,
Yeah.
it diminishes their ability to kind of regulate the amount that they're taking in, for sure.
Especially when it tastes good and they think it's it's okay for them. It's water. It's much safer. All that stuff. Yeah.
There are kids who are going through cartridges 1 a day, 1 or 2 a day, and that's the equivalent of a whole pack of cigarettes almost.
Wow.
Not to mention all the other garbage that's in there.
Right. Right. And then what they end up doing having to buy them because they're expensive. They make them fairly expensive. So, or some of them anyway. So.
And the last thing I would say, and I don't mean to take time, but
No.
it also kind of contributes to the spread of sickness and COVID in at least one of our cases, because they pass them back and forth.
They're sharing it. Yeah, so they're sharing it back and forth. So that's passing COVID. And then the whole keeping our lungs safe. We all know that, I mean, they tell us that if our lungs aren't healthy and strong, we're much more likely to have a severe case of COVID if we get it. So in both those ways. Yeah. Oh. All right. Well, let me turn it now. Thank you, Dan. And
Sure.
Tammy Diaz, my neighbor in Winthrop. Hi, welcome, and thanks for being with us. Tammy is the school nurse. And Tammy, tell us a little bit about the whole idea of menthol. Because when I first looked at this legislation, I didn't think menthol was a flavor. I just thought, well, that's just a kind of cigarette. I remember Salem menthols, I think is what my mother smoked. And, I didn't think it was a flavor. I just thought I didn't know what it was, but it didn't seem that. So talk a little bit and what you're seeing in Winthrop.
Hi, Betsy. Thanks so much for having me. Super happy to be here. This is both. I'm here on a professional as a school health professional, but I do have a personal history as well. Being a ex-smoker, starting at the age of 15,
Oh, wow.
and I smoked for 9 years. And it was one of the most hardest things to do, to quit. The nicotine is so addictive. And I am so frightened for our children now with the flavors, because they've taken away everything that seems to be immediately negative. The smell, the sweetness, the menthol cools the throat, so you don't feel the heat sensation. And just, they've, marketing wise, as you all have said, they've put it into this cool little device, that is easy to conceal, easy to share. It's easy to borrow from an unknowing adult that might think that they've just lost it somewhere. So it's easy to obtain. And, it's really scary. The brain development, as you had discussed, definitely impacts decision making and impulse control. And nicotine itself, one of the reasons it's so addictive is the sudden release of dopamine, that feel good neurotransmitter. And every time you take a puff or vape, they get that immediately good release. So now they've got the sweet flavor or the cool menthol flavor. So they've got multi levels of positive reinforcement. encouraging them to continue usage.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and there's lots of, as we know, lots of side effects that impact learning. Nicotine side effects, they can be headache, nausea. We all know about the cough, and that does happen even with short-term use, and anxiety. And once they're in the classroom, the withdrawal symptoms can start up to 30 minutes after the last use. So as we've said, our classes are sometimes 80 minutes long. Anywhere after that 30-minute mark, kids are being potentially distracted. Kids that have a tobacco addiction problem are distracted, and that makes it really hard for them to stay on task. And anyway, so I'm definitely on board that flavors and menthol is a flavor that has been around for a long time as well. And the impact on our children and community is definitely, scary.
Yeah, really scary. Really scary. Well, thank you, Tammy. And I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I said you were from Winthrop. Tammy is from Winslow. I apologize for that. But I think it's important, like it's because there's so many direct health effects, right, on the lungs and on the headache and all that kind of stuff. But also the ones that you talked about losing, focus and and what it does to you and having to leave the classroom and all of those things. I think the breadth of the danger to our kids, I think, is really important. Okay, so our last panelist, and then we're going to open it up to questions, is Tim Farrar, who's a PE teacher in Lewiston. Tim, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
and I understand that in your locker room, the guys were using some strawberry deodorant.
Well, that's it. Vicki did a presentation a couple of years ago, and Dan Gish, other phys ed teacher, we're in the locker room, we're monitoring, but you're obviously giving personal space for people changing up and showering and all that stuff. And you smell everything in those locker rooms. So, and we're sitting there and we're smelling, who knows what, Axe spray, body odor, all that stuff. And so we had that little seminar with Vicki one day, and then we we just had a conversation. Have we been smelling this right along? And, it really felt like we got gut punched and, just right under our literally under our noses for probably for years. And, I'm not saying we've got a great answer for it now, but our awareness level has certainly gone up. And, I am a parent, I'm a coach. I've heard stories, of teams having guys smoking in between periods or at halftime or not smoking, I'm sorry, vaping. Right. And being so like Dan had said, so covert about it but not even covert anymore, right out in the open. Yeah. I can't imagine a teammate when I was in high school playing sports smoking a cigarette at halftime. But this is what's going on. And so one of the things that I've been teaching almost 20 years now, I thought we beat tobacco 20 years ago. I thought this was gone. Because we've made it so undesirable. We've made it so socially unacceptable. I mean, if you want to smoke, you have to go in this place, outside when it's cold, cordoned off. And we've made everybody aware of that. You can't smoke in bars. You can't smoke in restaurants. But you can do this in your elementary school bathroom. You can do this on your bus ride home. You could do this in your bedroom, and your parents have no idea that this is going on. So that's the part that really is alarming to me. And you talk about marginalized communities, and that has not been my personal experience. We have the most socioeconomic diversity probably of any school in the state, Lewiston. And I've seen it from every walk of life. Our assistant principal says he takes 1 or 2 a day in a normal year from various groups. And if you go by some of the mom and pop not grocery stores, but gas stations and little general stores, you see the advertising is plastered everywhere. And that 45 million, that's where that's going. It's to keep those little businesses going. And I was telling Vicki this earlier. I have a friend of the family that had a store in Oxford, Maine, 20 years ago, and he made a choice. He wasn't going to sell tobacco products. He was out of business in a year. And that's probably the only argument that I can find that there's any redeemable quality in this product, because there isn't. And that's the questions I have is who, and I would say this to kids that, oh, this is good for me, or this is no issue. Who's making this? Is Philip Morris a healthy brand? Are they helping people? And why is it so hideable? Why can I hide this? What is something about this? Why can I hide this? And again, literally under our noses. And it's looking for loopholes. And Carol and I were talking last night about this. It's like Bill Belichick finding a loophole so the Patriots can win a game. That's what tobacco's done. Yeah. They have found a loophole, and people that are vigilant and care are so unaware. And you feel like I said, I feel like I was punched right in the gut. I felt like a person so out of touch with reality, and that's what's happened with us.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, Tim. I mean, I have to say, that gut punch was exactly how I felt as a mom, who spent so much time trying to make sure that my kids were healthy and had healthy practices. And so, yeah, it is hard. And they find every loophole and every place to go. And that's where they go. And they got millions of dollars to do it, millions and millions and millions of dollars to do it. And Mary Lou Warren, there you are. Hi. And I know that you too, as a mom, got that gut punch. Are you willing to share your story a little bit with us?
I've been sharing my story for 4 years, and I get emotional all the time. So bear with me, because I have a track record of getting a little choked up, but I really am so impressed that all of you are here. And I thank you all so much for doing what you're doing, because when I started this journey 4 years ago, I felt really alone, and I probably had never stepped into the State House before. So it was a big step for me, and I feel energized by what all you are doing and the awareness that you're bringing to this really tough situation we're in. So I do have a prepared statement, and again, my name is Mary Lou Warren. I live in Winslow with my husband and my 2 children. Carly's a senior in high school, and Jake is a college athlete. As a mom, I'm a volunteer for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, and I support funding for legislation to protect our kids from the dangers of all tobacco and nicotine addiction. I started advocating 4 years ago when I realized my 17-year-old son was vaping. When Jake was in elementary school, he would come home and tell me all about how bad smoking was. I never thought he would use tobacco products, and I believed we, the adults, did our job. Instead, we let our guard down. E-cigarettes and their use exploded in the schools. Tobacco industry was targeting our youth using flavors, sleek packaging, and deceptive marketing. It became clear to me that parents in the broader village that supports raising healthy children were blindsided. In the meantime, bathrooms became known as vape rooms. Students had trouble getting through a day without a nicotine fix, and vape shops popped up all over town. It was everywhere. I was surprised to learn that the state had done nothing to educate Maine parents and children about the harm of these dangerous products. Jake tried to assure me he had done his research and he had this under control. He could stop anytime. I was so excited to see Jake go off to college and study business and play D2 soccer. It was his dream. Here is the letter I sent to him after winter break when I saw his addiction was out of control. Jake, I hope you had a chance to read the article I sent you. It's a firsthand story of a college student sharing his story with no financial gain. He is a year older than you. His story is your story. He started very casually at a party with friends. He wasn't into alcohol and was told it's no big deal. It's just flavored water. His addiction to nicotine caused him to drop out of college, move home, and with the help from his family, he is trying to quit his addiction. Tobacco companies targeted you, the new generation of nicotine-addicted tobacco product users. Ironically, it's legal for you to purchase this addictive substance and become a lifetime user. I don't want to battle with you. I'm on your side. Your sleep issues, your morning headaches, your dry mouth, bloody noses, coughing, trouble breathing, bad looking teeth are all things you've noticed, along with your lack of focus and patience. You've also noticed your bank account dwindling. Laundry and pizza are not expensive. Tobacco products are. Nicotine has changed your developing brain, and I'm worried. You have been misled and your research has been misguided. You have worked so hard, and I am sad to see this taking over. I am so sorry you were lied to. I'm on your side. You need to stop, and if you can't, you need to ask for help. I've been holding off sending this email as it never seems like a good time. If you're happy, I don't want to ruin the moment. If you're stressed out and upset, I don't want to make it worse. I'm your biggest supporter of all your dreams. Your academic and athletic goals depend on you being mentally and physically healthy. Life is only going to get tougher and more stressful, and vaping is not a way to deal with it. 20 years from now, if you could give your 19-year-old self any advice, it would be don't start vaping. I'm here to help you. I want to have an honest conversation. Let me know when you want to talk. Love, Mom. P.S. Brush your teeth.
Wow.
When I tried to help my son quit, I found little information available to counter an industry trying to profit off hooking our kids. Jake describes his addiction as a toxic artificial love. He would say he can still remember his favorite vape flavor, a Red Bull flavor called Energetic Bull. It's been 2 years and he can still taste it every time he thinks about it. It took an all hands on deck approach to support Jake in battling his addiction. Even today, when life gets stressful, I worry that addiction will win. I'm so angry at this industry that is trying to blame me instead of being held accountable for the problem they created. The state has an important role in protecting public health, and that includes the health of our youth. We must keep our promise to our kids and protect them from these dangerous, addictive products. Again, thank you guys also for your support. It really gives me hope and energy, and I won't stop doing this.
Yeah, good. Thank you for not stopping. And thanks to Jake, and good luck to him as he battles this.
Yeah, I hope you get to meet him. He started advocating with me.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome.
Doing a great job.
Great. And that's what we need is young people starting out. You know, I think that just like there's many loopholes in tobacco, I think there's many places where young people, go. One is the athletes who realize that they're huffing and puffing on the field and can't do it. I think, something that Tim said about the corporations, these kids were so mad at big corporations taking over our politics and our lives. And, and guess what? They're taking over your life too. And that's part of this. So I think there's a lot of places that we can go and we can get them to realize what's happening and that they are really being pawns in the big tobacco game. So hopefully that's an added piece of the physical piece that we can help them with. So thank you very much, Mary Lou, for sharing your story. So now I'm going to open it up to questions for any of our panelists or for Carol or Teresa, anybody who's here. If you have a question, you can just raise your hand. You can use that little thing that lets you raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat, whatever it is. But if you have any questions about the bill, about what's happening in our schools, about ways you can help, about something you don't know about, I learned a lot tonight. Lots of things I didn't know about. Vicki, what did you call them? Puffer balls? I never heard of that. So it's a new thing. So
puff bars.
What are they called? Puff bars?
Puff bars.
Never heard of them. So is that just another name for a vape pen?
It's a disposable vape pen that comes in a lot of amazing, quote unquote, flavors and colors.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Okay, another thing to watch out for. So any questions or thoughts or comments? It doesn't have to be a question. It can be a thought or comment if you have your own story. Anybody want to share? Yeah. Gino.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see a lot of familiar faces. Pete, I appreciate your beautiful songs at the beginning. Your lovely wife taught my kids, and actually my daughter Allie babysat your oldest when you first became a dad. And I think, Mr. Ferrara, you commented, we won this battle 25 years ago against tobacco. We thought we did. And the biggest things I remember being in that battle was we did it through legislation. The attorney generals, I think, I don't know how many of them combined and sued the tobacco industries. We got tobacco products taken off. They used to put cigarettes right up on the counter in the grocery store, in the small convenience stores. We got rid of cigarette machines. We did a lot of things, and we brought, I think, the percentage from about 38% of our teens smoking down to about 17. And then the tobacco company, I don't use this word often, they're evil. And this is intentional what they're doing. It's not accidental. They know what they're doing and they do it intentionally. That number, $45 million, comes out to about $125,000 a day in the state of Maine. And of course, kids would be the first to tell you advertising doesn't work. But we all know better. I've also learned that one of the things that was different for me when the vapes first came out was when the kids were using the term ripping a jewel. And I didn't realize that they take such huge puffs, they get a head rush out of it. So when I'm a former smoker as well, I never smoked a cigarette with the intention of like getting high from it, but they rip the jewels to get a buzz. It's a tragedy. So long story short, because I'm sure lots of people have things to offer. I think our best strategies are again, legislatively to go, because these lobbyists know exactly what they're doing. So it behooves us to know who they're giving money to, whose campaigns they're supporting. It behooves us to get our congressional delegates to get on the FDA. I was reading today that Canada, who banned menthol about 3 years ago, and how successful that has helped them in reducing tobacco product use in Canada. So this is, we know what we need to do. It's just, we didn't expect to have to do it again. But it's our children, so we have no choice. We have to stand up against these people who are selling a product that's designed to end your life prematurely if you use it and make you miserable between now and then. I learned, when I first came out, the marriage of electronics to nicotine, because our children love electronic devices and they get to be James Bond. They get to play secret agent, like, you can't catch me. It's very appealing to an adolescent developmental person. So it's good to see and hear everybody. It's going to take a unified effort to fight back against these people, because they're obviously well financed and they're unfortunately they're really good at what they do, and we have to be really cognitive of what we're doing to save our kids. So thanks for letting me vent a little bit.
Thanks, Gino. No, they're good at what they do, and we just have to be better, and luckily we are. Kathy, hi, welcome.
Okay. I have a question. Actually, the question is about testifying. I think you said May 7th.
Yes.
I'm not very geeky. I use it a lot, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
That describes most of the people on this Zoom.
So can someone pass along the information of exactly where to look, exactly how to get onto this on May 7th?
Yes.
Stuff like that. I mean,
absolutely. It's very
link, because there's whatever.
It's very simple. I mean, I say that as someone who's not a geek, a technology geek, but Carol was going to type in the message box the link to, it's just mainelegislature.org/testify. And then you can walk through it and get there. And if you have any trouble, let me know. And Teresa will contact you as well. You can let me or Teresa know, and we will walk you through it. It is easier, and there is something great about not having to go sit in a room, and all that I know all of you have done for so many times and so many years, or many of you have done. And it's not quite as scary, Mary Lou, as when you went the first time, because it's not the big room and all, it's a little bit easier to be in your own home. So anyway, and the other great thing is you can just pull your testimony right up on your screen, and you look like you're looking right at them, and you're just reading your testimony. It's quite lovely. So
thank you. Because I've tried to get on for a couple other things, and I can't quite get there. I follow this, that, and the next thing, and the next thing it's over, and I didn't get there. And also, as he said, I am a former smoker. I started somewhere around 13-ish, and I quit almost when I was almost 30, and I was smoking almost 3 packs a day.
Oh my goodness.
Fact is, I couldn't get through the night. I'd wake up at 2 o'clock, have a cigarette so I could go back to sleep. And I did quit. This was before they had any help, and it was the most miserable 3 weeks of my life. It's the hardest thing I ever did. And you might be able to use this line, but the line that I told myself, I'd gone to Boston and I'd saw the 2 lungs in the Museum of Science, a smoker's lung and a regular one. And it took me 2 years after that, but I kept seeing that. And I decided that in smoking, I was willingly participating in my own death.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I kept thinking about is, there's no joke about this is going to kill you early. And I have friends now my age that are all on oxygen all the time. I'm 76, so I've been around a while, or will be in a couple of months. But they are participating in their own death.
Yep.
And that's the way I look at it. So, and I would love to go. I mean, I have a grandniece who vapes, and I think one of the grandnephews does too. And they want me to stay the hell out of their business. So the only way to get rid of it is to get it off the shelves. So, or begin to. So thank you. And letting me know that. I see it's up there already.
Yeah, and we'll help you through it, Kathy. So we want your voice.
I mean, I used to go to if I could go there, I would.
I know, right? True for all of us.
I'd rather drive and get there than this. All right. So thank you. I'll shut up.
Thank you, Kathy.
I will contact you, Kathy. And I'll walk you through it. No problem.
Thank you.
And Representative Arford, welcome and thank you for being with us.
Well, this was seriously one of the best programs I've seen in a while. It just was excellent, and the stories are just so profoundly powerful. And I just wanted to say I've had a bit of experience now on the legislative website, the committee websites. And if anybody would like any help, including Kathy, who I know well, walking through submitting their testimony, please call me. I'm posting my phone number in the chat. I would be happy to help you. And it's actually quite simple, but it might take like a minute or two of coaching. So I'd love to help.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Carol asked in the chat, if anybody has a story or knows someone with a story who started smoking because of menthol, then please let us know. I know that my sister-in-law who quit, but who is now 84, started smoking because they made Salem menthols. And she's like, oh, I hated cigarettes before, but I love this menthol. And then my father accused her of being wimpy because she'd smoked menthol cigarettes. And so I was little, I didn't know really what they were talking about, but it was definitely a thing. So, and I think the other thing is, I think one of the things we want to be, both with our children, Mary Lou, and also with the legislature is how sneaky, it sounds sneaky is not how evil, but the information is out there. There's a lot of false information about it's just water, it's less, it's less hard on your lungs and it's not as dangerous. Because that's what kids cling to, because it tastes good and and then once you're addicted, you want to stay with it. And so there's just so much misinformation out there. It's really quite something. And as Gino said, they have plenty of money, $125,000 a day to advertise. Imagine if we had that to stop it. It would be amazing. So any other thoughts or questions? If not, I am going to turn it over quickly to Jan and Rebecca for 2 last words on how people can help and give us the rallying cry to make sure that we are all there on May 7th at 9 o'clock and calling our legislators and calling our senators. Jan, take it away.
Thank you, Betsy. I'll give the rallying cry. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you for your work in your homes with your kids, in our schools, and in our communities, and just for joining this important conversation. This is a nonpartisan health and safety issue. Let's use our voices to inform that flavors hook kids, and use our advocacy energy to protect Maine's young people. Representative Millett, would you share a closing thought, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jan. First, I just want to thank everyone who spoke this evening, Mary Lou, Dan, Tammy, Tim, Vicki, Phil. What you shared with us is harrowing and incredibly strong, impactful testimony. And I really look forward to seeing all of you sharing that with my colleagues on the Health and Human Services Committee and the full legislature once the bill gets through committee. This has been an amazing night. Pete, those songs were awesome. I can't wait to look you up online. And, you know, for us to bring change, we are going to need all of us and more to take action in every way we can think. Testifying, letters to editors, that hasn't been mentioned too often tonight. Those are really a great way. Local papers and the bigger papers as well. Flooding social media, personal emails to committee members, to your representatives and senators. We have to have a laser-like focus on this issue because that's what big tobacco lobbyists have. They are focused very intently on this legislation, and they desperately want to defeat it. So we're going to have to dig really deep and reach out to everyone we can think of to rally along with us. We have to drown out the opposition voices. That's the way it works in the State House, whether it's in person or online. So, you know, again, this is a great start, everyone. Yeah, I'm just so glad it was recorded, so now we can share it with others and beyond. So stay well, and thank you all the heroes and sheroes that were here tonight.
Great. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Representative Millette and Penn and Representative Dodge. And again, to all of you, you're awesome. This is going to take all of us. You know, you've heard all the things that you can do. Teresa and Carol, thank you so much for organizing this and putting it all together and all your hard work, and all our amazing panelists, not just for being on this panel, but for what you do every single day to try and make this better and to try and fix this. And I know that for me, I'm sending this recording to my children, who I think still, even though they tell me, oh, no, we don't do it very much anymore. I know that they're lying to me. So I'm going to send it to them. I think we have a lot of work to do. And again, the forces against us, they may not be lining the halls. They're not as easy to identify. You know, like usually we can spot when they're talking to somebody, and we can go right to the person that would be the next one to talk to them. We can't do that now. So it's really going to take us to just, and it's, you know, the people elected, these wonderful people elected are our representatives, and we pay their salaries, and we have the right and the responsibility to talk to them about, you know, what is important to us. So let's do it. Let's do it in big numbers, and let's just do it relentlessly, because that's what it's going to take to do this. So thank you so much. And I understand that, Pete, you might be willing to sing us out. You are awesome. Thank you so much. And again, thanks to everybody, and have a great rest of the evening. And we'll see you all on May 7th.
Thank you to everyone, and thank you, Betsy Sweet, for emceeing for us. Very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yes, thank you all. Great. Awesome.
Thank you for advertising it enough so that we knew enough to look for this.
Great.
You don't think I didn't? Did I do it enough?
All right, take it away, Pete.
All right. Well, being a true Mainer, I feel like 97% of my songs are about the weather. So this is no different. So have a wonderful night. This is a song called Dear July. I'm going to play for you. So. It started as a spark. Now it blazes like a wildfire. We hold it in our hearts, we never let it go. Two lightning bugs in June, we're blowing up the summer night. The willow trees are weak, and still they don't know why. So dear July, stay with me for one more night. The party can't be over, we just got here. Dear July, I can see the summer in your eyes. Your vanity is filling up my soul. lying in a yard at some old-fashioned farm, studying the stars and wondering where I'm from. If Martians fell from space, would they recognize my face? Would they treat me like a king? Or would I vanish with no trace? So dear July, stay with me for one more night. The party can't be over, we just got here. Dear July, I can see the summer in your eyes. Your vanity is filling up my soul.
Nice. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.